You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. Minister attached to the Prime Minister and Secretary of State of the Ministry of Social Affairs, Veterans and Youth, Samheng Boros, attended the research conference on improving Cambodian health and well-being at the University of Putisastra on 13th October, where he spoke a bit about the importance of prioritizing and raising awareness on mental health issues. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis attended the conference and had a chance to interview Secretary of State Samheng Boros.
The University of Putisastra held a two-day conference on improving Cambodian health and well-being ways forward on the 13th and 14th of October, where distinguished guests delivered keynote speeches and plenary discussions were held on a number of health-related topics. One of the distinguished guest speakers was the Minister attached to the Prime Minister and the Secretary of State for the Ministry of Social Affairs, Veterans and Youth, Samheng Boros, who spoke about the subject of mental health and the importance of identifying and being aware of mental health issues in Cambodian society.
To me, this is something that I feel is really important in this stage of Cambodian. It's the society, our Cambodian society at the moment are not yet identify mental health as individual problem. They don't see that they have it. And there is a heavy stigma that they believe that if you have a mental health issue, you will be crazy.
The Secretary of State said that the stigma is why so many continue to hide their mental health problems and will not seek help. He stressed that this is a very important issue to address because last year the Ministry of Interior announced that there were 247 cases of suicide in Cambodia. He said there was a great need to train more people to become psychologists, counsellors, therapists and even life coaches.
Even right now, my Ministry of Social Affairs, where we are working on producing enough social workers that can deploy in all areas of the community to actually help provide a counseling to our citizens.
He acknowledged that there are a lot of people out there who are too scared to ask for and seek help to social stigma. He, however, also encourages people to open up. And he said that opening up can help to ease the pain in one feeling, and there are some NGOs in the country that can provide support. One of the biggest obstacles to greater awareness and acceptance is mental health problems. The Secretary of State sees them rooted in traditional prescriptions of masculinity, where men are expected not to show their weaknesses and that would lead them to lose their manhood.
You know, my name is actually Boros. Boros in Cambodia means man. I've gone through that male syndrome. We want to be protected, want to be strong, especially for our family member, for our peer to recognize us differently. But by doing that and not acknowledge our problem, it's suffering. You will end up on a destruction path if you are not acknowledging your problem and open it up.
He also touched on the subject of how suicide, how it affects entire families.
Society as a whole, to start discussing this and to allow them to understand. But of course, I think if you look into a person in trauma, in traumatic, a surgical problem already, that actually in a mental health issue already, they will not understand any other important than themselves.
The Secretary of State was kind enough to open up about his own experiences of growing up in the Khmer Rouge and the great trauma his parents experienced and continue to carry from having lost many family members, including a child.
Yeah, I want to be honest even further. So even myself, growing up in a genocide era where it just ended, our parents were suffering from the loss of everything. They lost a family member, they even lost their kids, their mom and dad, right? So raising children through that, it was so tough for them. We were taught to not trust anyone. We were taught to not complain, to not everything. And we actually, I was lucky that I was not being abused by my parents, but many of my friends was abused by them. So carrying this trauma in them for so long, it's so hard for them to understand what is the right thing to do. What we are working with is to make sure that all professionals are talking about this. All students understand about this. And even private sector.
Finishing up the interview, Secretary of State Samheng Boros said he would like to train the younger generation to better understand how social workers and counsellors can help society to reduce existing stigma against mental health problems and move towards the future where everyone can receive help that they need. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
And when people may be able to identify their problem,